I just feel like it is okay to be scared. It is okay to feel like I'm not a huge risk taker. There are very successful people who have made decisions in life, personally or professionally, who do everything in a really minimally risky way. And that is an okay way to to tackle life as well.
Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat of Take the Doughnut, here to help you get inspiration and get donuts. I'm a motivational keynote speaker, and today I'm bringing you a Take the Doughnut interview with the one and only Keren de Zwart. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Keren is a lawyer and the owner of Not Your Father's Lawyer, as well as the owner of Legal Launch Lab. So welcome to your interview.
Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you. First of all, before we get into any more serious questions, we have to ask, what's your favorite donut?
Oh, I would say it's a tie between a maple bar and a glazed old fashioned, kind of the classics for me.
Nice. Going for the
Yeah.
classics. Well, I gave a little bit of information about your bio up front, but I'd love to hear more about you. Tell us what you want us to know about you.
Sure. I am a business lawyer. I've been practicing for about 14 years, and I had kind of a funny career trajectory because I started law school and thought, I don't know if this is for me, but it's what I kind of said I was going to do my whole life. But I didn't want to be a law school dropout. So I finished law school, took the bar, became a lawyer. And I really thought I hated being a lawyer for a long time. And it was really only when I ventured out on my own and built my business where I got to kind of present legal services in a way that I thought was valuable and, a customer service oriented business, working with clients that I loved. It turned out I really did like it. I just didn't like the traditional model of a law firm. So I've been doing this uh, really for 7, 8+ years, but full time when I like actually left the corporate world and untethered myself to that world. It's been about 4.5 years that I've been doing this. And then the other business, Legal Launch Lab, is just a template shop for people who know that they need, kind of legal contracts in their small business, but they're not quite ready to work with a lawyer, or they feel like a lawyer is maybe out of their budget, but they know that those pieces are important. So those are 2 businesses that I'm running.
That's amazing. And just to sort of further plug what you're saying, I've done some work with you. I've definitely read your content, and you make what can often be perceived as a scary subject, you make it a lot more accessible. So for those who are small business owners who are looking for any kind of legal advice, you're definitely the place to go.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, the way that you told that story tells me that you are an excellent person to talk to about this topic today. So we're going to talk about taking the donut, which for me is an expression that means carpe diem. For those who aren't familiar with my origin story with that, I will link a video here. But basically, I once left a donut on a table in college, and it became an object lesson for me in what it looks like to actually leave opportunities on the table. And I didn't want to do that anymore. So I tell myself to take the donut. And, with that in mind, this whole conversation is about going after goals, going after dreams, taking action towards the things that you want. So let's ask some questions about that. Keren, how are you when it comes to going after goals? What is that process like for you?
That's a really good question. I think that what might be unique for me is that I was really good at going after goals on that traditional corporate ladder and just climbing the ladder and being a good employee and doing my thing. And when it didn't really fit for me anymore, it actually was a real awakening about how hard it is to go after things for myself and, in my own world and on my own terms. So I'm certainly better at it today than I was, 4 or 5 years ago. But I do think that there was a little bit of a difference when it's for somebody else, kind of it's part of this cog in a machine. It was easy for me to kind of do all the things and pursue the next step. But when everything's on you, you're relying on yourself and you are responsible and accountable completely on your own, right? If I take something or I take action or I make a decision, if it's the wrong decision or if I fail, it's completely on me. That was a really hard thing for me to grapple with as early in kind of being a business owner.
Mm. It's so tricky, trying to get things going for yourself and understanding what that process looks like when you're going basically completely off the map of what you've been taught and what you've been doing this whole time.
Absolutely.
But you got there, you did take initiative. Once you've taken initiative, and this can be related to that big change or any big change, what keeps you motivated, especially if it's something that, if the donut that you're taking is something that is going to take effort over time? What keeps you going?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think probably it's a little cliche, but for me, I'm so goal oriented. And so when the goal is really far away, you have to kind of build these milestone little goals inside of that goal. And because I am somebody that will kind of flounder a little bit with something that's too far away and I need to create the steps. Okay, what's the immediate next small step? So I always say when this is kind of a funny analogy, but when I was in high school, we used to go, I live in Orange County in Southern California, and we used to always go to the beach, and the beaches in Southern California are hilly. It's, cliffs and whatever. So when you go, you park at the top and you have to walk down. And if you're surfing or you're playing volleyball or you're hanging out with your friends all day, you're like really tired at the end of the day. And where we went to the beach, there are these steps. And it's just like, if you look up, it's like, I'm not going to be able to make it up there. It's so far away. And so I used to do this where I'd have my surfboard and my backpack and whatever, and I would only look at the immediate step in front of me. Like, don't look at the 150 steps you have to walk up or whatever. Just look at the next step, one step at a time. And so it's funny because when I'm struggling or I'm overwhelmed or have a lot of stuff to try to figure out kind of the path forward, I literally say to myself, like, just look at the next step. And I kind of envision that those stairs at the beach and think like, I did that. And that was just a little thing. And you take that little step, that little next step, and don't worry about the long-term overall staircase that you have to climb.
What an interesting visual you trained yourself to have, outside of that setting.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Well, what challenges you? I mean, maybe that is part of the challenge, but are there any particular types of challenges that you seem to continue to encounter every time you go after something?
For me, yes, I don't know if it's like inherent in my nature or the training as a lawyer, but I'm really good at thinking about all the things that, like, why it won't work, all the obstacles that I will encounter. And in some ways, it's good, I think, because I'm not somebody that just kind of like jumps blindly off the cliff thinking, like, oh, I'll figure it out. Hopefully the parachute will open. But in a lot of ways, it's bad because it makes it very hard to start. Oh, I want to take on this challenge, or I want to, achieve this goal. Well, I'm too busy, my kids, yada yada, whatever the real life scenarios are, it won't work. It's already in the market. The pricing doesn't, there's all these reasons that um, will come to mind, and it really creates this barrier just even starting. So that is a challenge that I face in really any decision I make at all, even like, what school should my kids go to? What should we have for dinner? I don't know. So I see that a lot, and that's something that I constantly have to overcome.
Is there a way that you found that works best for you to overcome it?
I would say it's still a work in progress. I think that the truth is that having the courage in some of those moments to just take that first step, hey, just try and see what happens, and to be confident in my, the data from the past that says I can overcome these challenges, I can pivot if I need to pivot, that I have to kind of fall into that really logical place of the like, okay, well, if you want to play out the worst case scenario, let's play it out. Where does it go? What happens? Am I homeless on the streets and, starving and I can't feed my children? No, that's not a realistic worst case scenario. So let's go through that. And because I'm really risk averse, I do make really calculated decisions. So I talk about that a lot in going out on my own in business. I mean, I have a partner, I have a spouse, and he had an income, so we had something to, fall back on. But also, I said, okay, if I'm going to leave the corporate world, and I had a good job, and I was in the corporate world for 10 years, so I was making good money, and I said, well, I want X amount of dollars in the bank. Like we're gonna save up. This is what would make me feel comfortable to be able to take that leap and go into business myself, not knowing, you know, that how much I'm going to make or how long it's going to take me to build a business that's sustainable. And I wanted to have that runway. So I really I take very calculated risks. So I'm not a big risk taker like a lot of entrepreneurs are.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a ton of self-talk that sort of talks you into the questions you have to answer and then helps you get through those questions at the same time. Sounds like a
Yes,
significant
absolutely.
process that you go through.
Yes. For better or worse.
Yeah. Well, let's look back historically, and it could be that you've already mentioned something in this category, but what would you say is the biggest donut you've ever taken? Could be personal, could be professional.
I mean, definitely the biggest donut I've ever taken would probably be professionally, which is going into business for myself. That was not only, a big change and a big risk, but it was really very different from the life I envisioned when I started my professional career. If you had asked me 15 years ago, I definitely did not envision starting my own business, let alone multiple. I actually am a part of another business. So I run three different businesses. I definitely did not see that as a direction I was going to take. Um, so that was the biggest, and a lot of it has to do with the other, I guess, donut that I took, which was really in the midst of a big time in your professional career, especially as a lawyer in a male dominated industry, is that we chose to start a family, um, which had a lot of impact. But the two kind of intersect because a huge reason that I chose to build a business and leave was because that corporate ladder that I dreamed of climbing really wasn't a family friendly choice. And I really wanted to straddle being a mother and a present mother, and being a really ambitious career person. So they kind of, those two big life decisions that I took kind of intersected and became the donut that I took, which is definitely the best donut that I've ever taken.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's like you got there through problem solving almost, like these roads are your solution to each other. It's amazing to think
Yeah.
about that path.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, that's part of one of the things that you don't think about when you are trying to take these steps and make these decisions is that, the road isn't always paved in front of you, even if you're trying to make, like me, trying to lay out every plan. But that it's a little bit fun. I think I've embraced the adventure of the unknown a little bit more than I did as a super type A person over the years.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, is there something you're working on now? Is there a donut that's currently in progress?
Uh, sure, a lot of things, but I would say that Legal Launch Lab is my biggest donut. It used to be like an offshoot of my law firm, Not Your Father's Lawyer. It was always meant to be its own thing. And this is I was a great like manager and delegator in the corporate world, but when it's your own baby, it turns out it's a lot harder to delegate and offload things. And so I spent a lot of time like baby building it, like one tiny little block at a time. And I was like, this is never going to become what it should be or what I want it to be or what it could be if I'm trying to wear all the hats and do all the things. So a huge thing that I have done is invest my money and also my time in building a team, which is a funny thing as a business owner, because not only do you have to give up some of the money, at least temporarily, to be able to grow it and scale it, but it takes a lot of time to bring people in and have them kind of come into the fold and be able to actually take it off. And so when you're really, really busy and you're kind of in the weeds, it's a hard thing to do, to actually be willing to invest that time up front. So like investing the money I was willing to do, but I was surprised how much time it would take to kind of find the right team. And this has been an iterative process that I am learning, where, I have like the kind of the core team that I brought in, but we're going a different direction with some of the marketing and stuff. So that's been an interesting thing. But that's the biggest donut that I've taken, is accepting that I have maxed out my bandwidth, and that if I want to continue to grow, I have to be willing to bring people in and to grow a team.
That's a significant one. I mean, it actually represents to me kind of a lot of lifestyle shifts.
Absolutely.
And a lot of big challenges. So it's cool to see that one in progress for you. So there may be people listening to this who are trying to take a donut of their own, or maybe who are thinking about it and who haven't started yet. So let's sprinkle some encouragement. Let's see, what would you tell them? What advice would you give to those people on their journey forward?
Yes. So I think that mine might be a little different. I know a lot of people are kind of like, just go for it. You can do it. Take that leap. And as we have established, I am very calculated. I'm very risk averse. So I really tell people it's okay to do it in that risk averse way. You still have to you have to look down at that first step, and you still have to take that first step. But it's okay to do it with some planning and some saving and some of the plan laid out, but you have to be willing to be flexible, because we can plan A to Z, but you probably will get to step B and have to veer off the path a little bit. So I just feel like it is okay to be scared. It is okay to feel like I'm not a huge risk taker. There are very successful people who have made decisions in life, personally or professionally, who do everything in a really minimally risky way. And that is an okay way to to tackle life as well.
Beautifully said. And I mean, looking at where you've landed so far, I mean, I know your process is still going, but looking at where you've landed, obviously you can do it that way. I think you're a perfect example that, you can take those steps, and you could be really thoughtful and methodical about each one and make progress. So
Absolutely.
Lovely. Well, where can we find you? I can put links in the description, but what links should I put?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram. It's at Not Your Father's Lawyer. And you can find me online at notyourfatherslawyer.com. That's my best way to connect with me. You can find me and my team at Legal Launch Lab on legallaunchlab.com, or on Instagram at Legal Launch Lab.
Wonderful. Well, everybody be sure to check out those resources. And if you liked this interview, make sure to like and subscribe with this video, because there's so many great interviews still to come with inspirational words of wisdom from all kinds of amazing people. But in the meantime, Keren, thank you for chatting and sharing about your experience of taking the donut.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, you know what to do. Get inspiration, get donuts. Bye.